Hello, it's Friday, November 1st, 2019, and as of this recording, I'm still depressed, but I'm not dead. Hey everybody, I am recording real quick in a Brewers Bagel. I'm trying to piece together an interview chat that I had with my good friend Kate. Hopefully it works out and sounds okay, and the little kids screaming across the way here are getting picked up by the microphone. Kate and I talk about quite a few different things. It's a fascinating conversation. I really enjoyed it. I felt like I got to know her a whole lot better. I think she has a lot of good insights and life experience that you all will enjoy and appreciate. There may be a follow-up podcast to this, which I will explain later on if we do with the second podcast. If not, it's about an hour worth of chit-chat that we had, and I hope you enjoy it. And let's just get on with it. Okay, so here I am, speaking with my friend Kate from Down Under. Is that allowed to be said, or is that kind of...
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. People say that. As long as you say Aussie and not Aussie, I'm all good.
Aussie, okay.
Aussie, yeah, like
Okay.
with a Z.
Right, with a Z, she says.
Yeah, so OZ,
Yeah.
That's the pronunciation.
Yeah, so we've been yammering on here, and so my friend Kate, who we've been friends online for a few years now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So everybody, this is my friend Kate. You've heard me mention Kate on the episodes before. So Kate, why don't you say hi, and if you have anything you want to share right off the bat, you know, what your favorite color is, what your zodiac sign is, whatever.
Well, hi. Yeah, I'm the fabled Kate that always writes in and gives unsolicited advice to JP. My favorite color varies on the day. I like lots of things. I should have really prepared something, considering we've been talking about doing this for the last probably 3 years. But I didn't, because I'm disorganized like that.
No, that's fine. I mean, generally that's how my show goes. I just kind of start talking and it goes somewhere, or it doesn't, and I delete it. So usually with a partner, it goes a little smoother for me, though. So
Yeah.
So we met on Twitter first, or you found my show, or I can't really remember
I think
now.
I found your show. I was trying to remember that this morning. I think I found you on the podcast somewhere. I probably searched depression or similar. And then I think I probably wrote to you. I don't actually remember, but that's something I'd do.
That
Because
sounds
I like
right.
to interject myself into everybody else's life. So.
Well, it's a welcome interjection in this case.
And I couldn't believe how similar our thought patterns were, because it was very unusual, at least back then, for me to find anyone else who'd basically been chronically suicidal for a really long period of time and actually understood what that felt like. And I just went, oh my God, he gets it. So
Cool.
That was my feeling at the time anyway.
Okay, so actually I just opened up my Gmail, and this looks like back in July of 2017, I think is when I got the first message from you. So
Okay.
yeah, so that's cool. And I don't know, we kind of a shared mind almost, because we kind of hit it off right away. You know, it's kind of sporadic, but we message back and forth. I read your blog. I comment sometimes. You know, you comment sometimes on mine. You like my podcast set Panera Bread, I see.
I did.
Yeah.
I did like that. It's cool seeing you on YouTube, actually. You're a lot braver than me. I don't think I could go in public and just talk when people who actually saw what I looked like could, I don't know, hear me. And I have some privacy, I suppose, is a big thing for me. So I get a bit freaked out at the thought of anyone in my real world finding out about my online world.
Right.
So,
yeah, well, we're all different, right?
I'm very anti-stigma, like online. Well, I'm anti-stigma anyway, but I still can't get over that self-stigma. So
Oh,
I
and
tend
it's
to
hard.
bottle it up and it's something I am working on. I'm trying to be more authentic to the real world. I'm my most authentic self on my blog, which is probably sometimes a little too authentic.
No, it's great. It's really, a lot of times it's very deep and very powerful, and it's just wonderful. I love it when you post something. I get excited when I get a little email pops up says, "Hey, there's a new post."
Oh, thanks.
So so are you comfortable with talking about what you struggle with?
Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, that's the point, isn't it? Yeah.
Okay.
Wouldn't know how to start. Ask me questions. I'm not good at.
Okay. Well, I mean, so you deal with mental illnesses,
Yes.
and specifically, do you have a specific diagnosis? Or are you kind of self-diagnosed, or?
I have a few specific diagnoses. So I was diagnosed originally with bipolar 1 disorder with psychotic features, which is joyful.
Right.
And I didn't get diagnosed with that until my late 20s.
Okay.
Because even though I'd struggled with depression and, all of the symptoms of bipolar basically since I was very, very young, I was also extremely frightened of anyone finding out that I might be crazy. And I didn't really know what bipolar was either myself until I was a lot older. So when a friend, I think I was in my earlier 20s, a friend got diagnosed with bipolar, and this friend and I were very, very similar on so many levels. And when she got diagnosed, I kind of went, no, there's no way she's got that because we're the same. Didn't sort of enter my head that maybe I had it too.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And later on, when because I don't think I read the symptoms. I think I just thought it was something, people were crazy, and I'd only seen things on television.
Sure.
And had all the stigmatic views of it. And then, later on, when I was sort of having really big problems and the issues with psychosis had crept in, well, ones that I was aware of, I suppose.
Right.
That's when I ended up thinking suicidal ideation got terrible, and I needed to actually do something about it and speak to somebody. And they basically said, yeah, you've got the classic symptoms of bipolar. I was shipped off to a psychiatrist, and they agreed, and I put on all these different meds, etc. It was a while after that I was actually hospitalised for it.
Okay.
For the first time was for a manic episode, and then again for a depressive episode later, and that's the big hospital event that I talk about in my blog sometimes.
Right. Yeah.
With the suicide attempt and all the fun stuff.
So so you said you're late 20s. So is it nice?
I was, yeah.
Is it nice to ask how old you are now?
Yeah, you're fine. I'm 34.
Okay, so you're youngin' still.
Feel old.
Yeah. Okay.
Lives.
So late 20s, bipolar 1.
Yeah.
And then
I also had anorexia as well which started when I was 14. Except through a lot of extreme avoidance, I never ended up hospitalised with that. I don't know if that diagnosis was, it was talked about. I don't know if that was written down anywhere by anyone. I used to lie to my parents all the time and just basically say, no, I'm fine. I'm doing all the right things now. I'm trying this, that, or the other, where secretly I wasn't at all. And so they didn't really follow up. They were a bit head in the sand about the whole thing. My dad had his own issues at the time, and I think Mum was too overwhelmed to cope, so no one checked in on it, and it ran rampant. And then when I thought I was going to get caught, I actually moved out of home, so I could avoid being busted with my eating disorder, and decided I could go live happily by myself with my eating disorder forever. But a whole lot of random circumstances stopped that. So yes,
Okay.
And then that came back again in my late 20s as well. Through that psychotic episode, I ended up the eating disorder came back in full force.
Oh wow.
And was re-diagnosed sort of officially at that point.
Okay, so
but I've got a handle on it at the moment. So yeah.
Okay, good. So it's all kind of new stuff to me. So I mean, was your anorexia, was it related to like a body dysmorphic disorder? Okay.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
I had a pretty traumatic upbringing. It's funny, in so many ways I thought I had the childhood, but in other ways there was a lot of bad stuff going on. A lot of stuff that I sort of suppressed and tried to deal with by emotional eating, I suppose, started it. So I was the fat kid at school.
Okay.
And then I was bullied badly at school. In my mind, that was only because I was fat. And eventually, I think there was a point hit where it was like, well, if I lose weight, then maybe they'll accept me. And then I did lose weight, but it went way too far, and they didn't accept me anyway. It didn't change anything. And I was never thin enough and all of those things.
Right.
But yeah. So, but from about 7 years old, I was overweight until about 13 when I started to lose weight. Then 14, it developed into the full-on anorexia.
Okay. And that lasted till you got through high school, moved out on your own.
Yeah. And it was about, I think because I moved out at 16. Sorry, my timeline's really dodgy. I'm trying to get through it. I moved out at about, I think I'd just turned 16 when I left home. I ended up falling pregnant at 17.
Mm-hmm.
And when I fell pregnant, I got a really big lecture from the doctor about eating well for the baby's sake.
Mm-hmm.
And I had been a bit better before then anyway. I mean, I got my periods back. That's something that you lose when you don't eat.
Okay.
And so I had actually, the fact that I could fall pregnant at all was rather lucky in hindsight, but at the time overwhelming. But because of that pregnancy, I started to actually eat because it wasn't about me anymore.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay. So I know I don't want to keep pressing, but I mean, is that your collection, your constellation of diagnoses? Is there anything else?
No, I also have I've got too many issues. A dissociative disorder, which is dissociative identity disorder, which is hard to say out loud.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So that means it was formerly known as multiple personality disorder, and I don't like calling it that because it's absolutely nothing like the television representation of it.
Sure.
So it's United States of Tara is, you can see things and relate. It's nothing like that for most people with it. It's actually a very covert disorder. Like only a couple of people in my life even know that I've got it.
Okay.
But the ones that found out went, oh, that actually makes so much sense once they actually knew and understood it. So that's been a big thing to learn to cope with and learn to deal with, and certain aspects of myself, I suppose, being very different from me, but we kind of all have to learn to understand it in our own way as well. So, yeah, it's confusing.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. I know, like reading your blog, you'll start talking about someone in third person.
Yeah.
But then it's like, no, wait, that's you.
Yeah, see, sometimes it's me, sometimes it's not me. I have, they call it DID. There's variants of it as well, which is what's called OSDD, which is, it's where you have more, like the amnesia is not as bad between alters. So while I still have general amnesia for day-to-day life, I seem to have quite good communication with some of my parts, but then others I have absolutely nothing and I do completely black out for. So I'm sorry if you've got no understanding of the illness at all. I'm sort of jumping in the middle here because, it's just hard to describe, I suppose. It's very disconcerting when people come up to you and talk about something that you've done or you did. And I mean, that can be a good thing or a bad thing or just an indifferent thing. And you have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. And you think it's, they're mistaken me for someone else or, whatever. But I don't drink at all. So I know it's not that I was drunk and I forgot or anything like that. And it was very confusing for a really long time why this kept happening to me. And it's only been in the last few years that it's all sort of made a lot more sense, and I can look back on my timeline and go, that's why this happened, that's why this happened, that's why I didn't remember this. And I was trying to piece together who did what, because the person they call out front, which is they call a host, that's the name, I suppose. And while I'm mostly hosting, I kind of have co-hosts, so there's two other parts that I have some communication with but not constant, and it's the three of us that are mostly doing things.
Okay.
So like working with the kids and work and all of that kind of stuff. And so while we're a fairly cohesive unit, there are things that I miss that I don't know are going on. Like there might be a school function that I was unaware of, but one of my other parts is completely aware of, and then I'll get questioned on it by my daughter, like, oh, you're coming to the whatever the special day that's on at school, and I won't have a clue what she's talking about, yet we've talked about it in great detail apparently, and it's on the calendar, and yeah, things like that. Wow. And then I sort of have to try and make it up as I go along and go, oh, right, yeah. Agree, sure. And then look it up, and hopefully it's written down. I'm pretty diligent about writing. Wow. Oh, hang on a second. I've just got, can we pause for a minute?
Yeah, absolutely. Hello.
Hello. I'm sorry about that.
No worries. Don't worry about it. Everything's all straightened out?
Yeah.
Okay, so because you're the only person that I really know who has this sort of DID condition. Do we call them conditions, I guess?
I'm the only person I know too.
Okay. And I know they're not really the same, but to a lay person they kind of are. Are you in on what this TULPA thing is? TULPA?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so they're extremely controversial because tulpas are intentionally created.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Whereas alters in DID are a protective mechanism to cope with trauma.
Right. Okay.
So when trauma is, you understand dissociation, obviously you experience it.
Yeah.
But when trauma is certain, if it's too much, then the brain will dissociate. And if it happens repeatedly during childhood, like early childhood, the dissociated part of the brain actually almost forms its own identity that copes with it, so that the child can go about day to day without having to think or worry about any of that.
Uh-huh.
So I'm sorry, I may get interrupted again in a minute, but I think it's okay.
Okay.
I'm editing this one.
Do you experience changes in identity?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I guess I experience it in different ways. So I am sometimes aware that somebody else is doing things, and it's more like I'm watching. So they call that co-consciousness. So it's like I'm observing somebody else like talking and controlling the body. It's like I can think, but I can't act, and yet my body's doing things and having a conversation, etc. And I'm kind of at the background just watching.
Wow. Okay.
Which is really, it's like dissociation, I suppose. You get that as well. Sorry, I'm probably going to have to move my car.
Okay, no worries.
Can I call you back again?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi.
Bedtime lucky. I think I'm all good now.
Okay, cool. Okay, so let's break away from the illnesses for a little bit, and I guess they'll always kind of splatter in. But so you are successfuly living with your illnesses now? Like you've got a life, you've got a husband, you've got kids.
Yes, I have a very high functioning life on paper, and it's just a little bit more complicated than that, I suppose, in real life. So as I mentioned, I fell pregnant at 17. But I was lucky in that I fell pregnant to my husband of today, who's still my husband, and we have a very good relationship. So he is very tolerant of my issues and supportive in that respect.
Okay, so trouble holding a full-time job, is that because you're like not quote unquote reliable as an employee? Yes. because you have days or weeks even when it's just all too much?
Yes, that's pretty much it. It usually especially the bipolar, I think probably affects that the most on a long-term basis, because I can come into a job and be firing on all cylinders. There was one job I started years ago, and I was hypomanic when I began it. And so when I started, I was very, very productive. They loved me. And I loved the job, and I was working 50 hours a week to the detriment of my family. But at the time I was so hyper-focused on the job that was sort of my be-all and end-all. And, they loved me and were, offering me promotions and this, that or the other. it's not sustainable, I suppose. And I think that was my longest sort of hypomanic period. It went for about, it was probably 7 or 8 months.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
not 100% certain. It was quite
Okay.
a long time, but it culminated into a full mania and a psychotic episode, including hallucinating at work, being completely unable to do my job, and basically all of their opinions of, oh, she's wonderful, etc., she can do A, B, C, were just dashed into what the hell's wrong with her.
Yeah.
So that was very humiliating on a bunch of levels.
Yeah, I bet.
And then that fell into a deep depression after that. Yeah, and well, they were pretty nice about the whole thing. I mean, they sort of understood that mental illness, etc., etc. But
Right.
I ended up changing departments because I felt really embarrassed because my colleagues had seen me like that.
Yeah.
So I changed departments, and that was actually a bad idea, because that the new department I was in was a really, really bad, toxic sort of environment for me. It was a bad fit.
Yeah.
And that one sort of, I actually overdosed in the car park at work.
Oh, wow.
So I suppose that's a different suicide attempt to the big one I talk about. But it got to a point where I couldn't face walking in the building another day, and literally overdosed in the car park. And I thought I'd been smart and taken something that would take a long time to kick in. So I was going to go to work, have my final day of work, say goodbye to everyone, and then just go home, go to bed, and never wake up. That was my plan. But I wasn't thinking very clearly because, hindsight, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah, right.
But I got violently ill within about half an hour of taking what I'd taken, and ended up going, oh gosh, I can't go up into work. They'll know there's something wrong with me, and that would be even more humiliating.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to drive home because, again, not thinking very clearly
Right.
at all. Literally vomited in the car as I was driving the whole way home. I don't know how I didn't crash and kill anybody. I live a good hour from where I was working at the time. So
wow.
The fact that I made it home alive or without injuring anyone else, is just a miracle in itself.
Yeah.
But I think because I'd vomited so much, I'd actually vomited up a lot of what I'd taken. And I ended up just sort of sleeping that one off, and then saying I had a stomach bug, except my husband smelled the chemical sort of smell that was associated with it. And he sort of cleaned up the car. He's like, no, that's not a stomach bug, and ended up taking me. I refused to go to the hospital, and so I didn't want to admit what I'd done. And he ended up dragging me to the GP, who was open late, and she sort of let me get away with not going to hospital. I really should have at the time, but
right.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. But it got worse after that. The depression just got worse.
Yeah. So hubby is really, he's on your side. He's your biggest supporter.
He is. He is. Yeah.
That's great. I know. Yeah. With Nora on my end, it's invaluable, right?
He's limited in his understand. I suppose because he doesn't suffer with it, so it's hard for him to understand. But he tries, and he I guess he puts up with all my crap anyway, if you know what I mean. Yeah. So I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, I know. So I mean, you've known him since 17, right?
Yeah, I was 16 when I met
16.
him. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And would you 18 years? So how much of that time would you say he was in on what you were struggling with? Like, did you keep it from him for a while?
Yes.
Did you?
Oh, big time. I mean, I think because especially the DID part of it, because I guess he met me so young, or us so young, that he knew all of the different facets, but just as one person, if that makes sense. So I've always been someone who's had a lot of different friendship groups. I always used to dread any time that I'd have to, if there was a party or something, I'd avoid it like the plague, because I didn't want to have my different friends meet each other, because they'd have a lot of questions about why I was friends with the other person, etc. Because I was so different around different people.
Wow. Okay.
And I couldn't imagine trying to be with all those people at the same time. I didn't know, because I'd have a friend that I loved dearly, but then I'd have another friend, and I knew on one level that we were good friends and did a lot together, but I couldn't remember them properly, and I couldn't know, I didn't know why I liked them or what they did. And I'd get very confused by that, because I was fully aware that we had this great friendship, but I just didn't, it's like I kept forgetting it, and which now makes a lot more sense to me. And so I would dread meetups because if everybody got together, I wouldn't, who was I going to remember? How was I going to introduce someone? And my friends would think I
Sure.
was awful for not knowing them. And so I used to get very, very nervous about anything like that. Whereas my husband kind of met all of the people separately, but he knew me in all of the different ways as well. So it was just all my separateness is like one thing to him because
Okay.
he's known me for so long.
Yeah.
I think someone meeting me later, it would have been a very different story, but it's
Wow.
very complicated.
Yeah. No,
I
it
struggle
is.
to get my head around it.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, you're lucky you have each other,
Yes,
and it's great. And you have how many children?
4.
4, and they
Yeah.
are a span of ages.
Yeah, so the big one's 17, and then I've got one about to turn 16. Um, then the next one's 13, I have to think about it, and 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And I mean, in varying levels, do they know what's going on with mom, or not at all, or what? I mean,
Varied
it's hard to
levels.
hide everything, right?
Oh God, yeah, it
Yeah.
really is. I mean, again, they just sort of think I'm a bit eccentric and moody, very moody.
Hmm.
They know about the bigger ones anyway. Know about the bipolar. I mean, they all know that I have bipolar.
Uh-huh.
The older two remember the suicide attempt and everything that happened with
Okay.
that, which is a struggle. I thought the third one did too, but he knew I'd been in hospital, but he didn't actually remember what had happened. And my daughter was really young at the time, and she just doesn't like
Okay.
she knew there was a time I was in hospital, but doesn't remember it at all,
Sure. Okay.
which is a blessing. But yeah, the third one he actually brought up something the other day, and I made a comment because I thought he knew, and then he went, "What?" Like he clearly didn't, and I actually
Oh,
haven't gone back and addressed that with him yet because
okay.
yeah, something came up, but it is something that I guess I'll have to talk to him about at one point. My oldest, I think he's aware of the DID, but I haven't actually specifically told him. I don't know if one of my other parts has said something
Okay.
because he's made comments before. I don't like to talk about it, I suppose, but yeah, he seems to understand like my memory issues a lot more. The others get very frustrated with that.
Hmm. Yeah, I know. Like talking to my girls. I've got a wide range of ages too, um, and like with my younger girls, so my biological girls, um, there's a feeling of like not wanting to discuss it with them because like I feel like I have a certain dad image, like
Yes.
like they look to me as dad, and somebody
Yeah.
who's and not like macho strong, but strong, an
Yeah.
adult
Yeah.
that can lead them, and to
I
kind
worry
of
that they're going to feel they won't be able to rely on me.
yeah, right,
Yeah.
yeah, like oh, now dad isn't as all, he's not always great, he's not always strong, I guess. Strong, I
Yeah.
keep going back to strong, but that has so many different
I know what you
connotations
mean
to
though,
it.
like emotionally strong or
Yeah.
yeah, I worry that they're going to feel like they have to walk on eggshells around
Yeah.
me and that it's
Hmm.
going to hold them back as people because I
Hmm.
really don't want that for them. I want them to feel comfortable being who they are and not think, oh no, how is mum? Is this going to hurt mum? Is this going to be a problem for mum?
Right.
I mean, well, I want them to be respectful in general of people. I don't want to have that put on them so that I just don't want them to have to unnecessarily worry because that's not their issue, that's my issue and it's mine to deal with and I don't want to put that onto them.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, and I guess there's so many different reasons why a child wouldn't talk to a parent about something, right?
Yes.
And
I know
I'd hate for that to be
me, I
another,
never told my parents anything.
right? But
I
I'd
was
hate for
too
that to be
afraid of what
another
it would do
reason.
to them.
Yeah, yeah. And so now if dad's got this, we're sick not weak is the mantra, right? But if
Yeah.
dad's got this weakness almost, like, oh, I can't bother dad with this issue,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
just, like, it
That's not what
terrifies
you
me.
want, is it? Yeah.
No. Okay, so I don't know. There's like a million. It's weird because I've wanted to talk to you for so long, and
Yeah.
there's like all these questions that have been always like popping in my head, but they're more like Kate, my friend, not Kate, my co-host on a podcast episode, right?
No,
So,
I understand. I think of things all the time I want to ask you about too. I find myself listening to the podcast because I usually listen in the car as
mhm.
I commute, and I'll be yelling at the podcast, going, "No, don't think that, JP. That's terrible," because that's something you've thought of bad about yourself. I'm like, "No, that's normal. That's normal." And I've been known to pull over and write you messages,
Yep.
going,
Yeah, you
this
have.
opinion, that opinion. You're probably wondering what on earth when you get them, but it's just where my headspace is, having heard something you've said. And yes, I agree completely. And and then when I actually get to talk to you, I think, oh, what did I want to tell him?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, if I've got this right, you've got kind of a love-hate relationship with medication. Is that,
Yes.
yeah. Are you comfortable talking about that a little bit?
Yeah, I am. So I'm not currently taking any medication, but I have been actually considering it again. I've had a lot more psychosis-related symptoms in the last couple of years. They're increasing in number, just small things mostly, but I have experienced more hallucinations and things like that seem to be happening when I'm not actually manic. Throughout the rest of my life, like whenever I've had any of those psychotic features, it's always been while manic.
Okay.
And then it will go away again when my mood stabilized. And then medication did help that. I'll admit that. But I was having some really, really major side effects from the medication,
Okay.
inclusive of falling asleep randomly.
Oh my.
Yeah, and I would get overwhelmed with tiredness very, very suddenly, and this could happen while I was driving in heavy traffic.
Yeah, not very
and
safe.
things like that, and it was
Yeah.
downright dangerous.
Yeah.
So I got very put off from that. I will admit too, there's a part of myself that has a lot of psychosis issues. Now I say part of myself because she is like an alter personality, but she doesn't front, which means she doesn't come out and host or be talking to people very often. She does sometimes, but not very often at all. So that's you can feel them, like you can sort of feel their presence. Which just makes me sound psychotic in general when I talk
No,
about
no.
it. It's different, and you can hear them talk, but it's not the same as hearing like an auditory hallucination, because I've had those too, and they're quite a different experience.
Okay.
So voices with DID are very internal, like you hear them. You know how you hear your own monologue, like when you're thinking?
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit like that, but it's a different voice, and it will come at the same time as other thoughts. So you can cross thoughts, you'll hear them arguing with each other while you're thinking something simultaneously. And they'll sort of, if you can actually have a dialogue with them, they'll reply to what you're talking about, but they'll come up with some really odd things that you wouldn't have thought of. So you can actually have quite a good conversation or to come up with ideas for things. I know that sounds silly, but so it's like having an internal dialogue rather than an internal monologue going on.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it is. I thought that was normal until I found out it wasn't. Basically, I've always had that my whole life. I just thought that's what people heard, but apparently I'm wrong. Anyway, so as I sort of learned that these, because some of them had names and things like that, and that was just I never thought of that as a psychosis symptom. But however, I have heard things that sound external to my body, so like a radio on in the next room, or people talking like they're behind you. So when I hear the voices of my alters, I don't turn around and suddenly expect to see them standing behind me. I know there's not a physical presence behind me. Whereas an auditory hallucination, you'll kind of jump and go, who was that? What was that? Where did that come from? So that's the difference.
So I've been actually thinking lately about how I think, right? And so when you're talking about having like an internal dialogue, when I think about something, there's like so much shorthand that goes on in my head, right? Like I hear that internal voice that says like the start of a sentence and the end of a sentence, and then the middle is just like it's just shorthand, right? Because it's my brain, me. So I know where I'm going with it, right? So how does that dialogue work? Is it like that, or is it really like a conversation like you and I are having, where
it's a conversation like you and I are having. Definitely. I guess because I mean I'm thinking when I think to myself, I guess I shorthand it too. I
Hmm.
really thought about it. But yeah, no, if I'm talking to them, then it's very much a conversation.
Okay.
So yeah, full sentences, I suppose, but quick full sentences. So I don't hear them say one thing. Like I can hear someone else's entire thought in a moment, but I hear it. Does that
Okay.
make sense? So it's like I
Yeah.
hear them say it, but they're not saying it very slowly like this. It's just like I'll suddenly think or hear or feel the thing, and it's like the fully formed thought coming to
Uh-huh.
me,
Yeah.
which can be a bit strange because yeah, I'll have part of a thought, and I don't know. I'm trying to think of an example, and then they'll just come back with this full-on descriptive answer because they've obviously had been thinking about it before, or I don't know,
Sure.
or it's come up before, or
Uh-huh.
I'm connected to it. So yeah, I used to think I was psychic
Huh.
when like that was my mum thought my mum's very very spiritual,
Hmm.
and my dad's very very atheist, and when I was raised I had both of those views coming at me quite strongly, and because I voices and all the different things I'd communicate with these parts of
Sure.
myself. Well, now I
Hmm.
now know what parts of myself. Mum thought I was psychic, so she sort of pushed the whole it's spirits, and you're
Oh.
communicating with the spirits and la la la, and encouraged it. But I had some really scary experiences with it, and tried to block it out and deny it, and then yeah, it got quite full on.
Wow.
But that was yeah when I think I really pushed it away from when I was about time's bad for me,
Hmm.
maybe 10.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I only had like a couple, like who I'd hear, but I'd never ever mentioned it. I stopped mentioning it to my mother. I stopped talking about it.
Okay.
And I knew that I shouldn't tell anyone at school about it or anything like that, so I never discussed it with my friends.
Okay. Okay. So without getting into the specifics, because it's your story,
Yeah.
but do you like are you aware, conscious now of the traumas in the past that most likely contributed to this issue?
Not completely.
Okay.
I have vague awareness. Of some. I don't actually know details,
Hmm.
but parts of me do, and have talked about different things with my psychiatrist. Actually, does therapy, so she's my therapist and
Uh-huh.
psychiatrist in one. I'm extremely lucky.
Yeah.
But I know parts of me have talked to her about things, and those are things that I don't actually have any. I'm not privy to. So, well, there was a whole bunch of lots of traumatic things that happened in my
Hmm.
childhood that I do know, but they are not what started this. And
Okay.
yeah, so I have I have a lot of body memory flashbacks. It's like PTSD
Hmm.
flashbacks, but I actually don't have the narrative memory that goes with it. So I just have the physical sensation that'll suddenly overwhelm
Oh.
me and things like that. But when that happens, I tend to dissociate.
Hmm.
And then I don't know, it just goes because, yeah, it's sort of, I'm pulled from it or whatever. So I never quite find out what that was. And that's something that's a very slow process. It's not something you should rush into. And my
Sure.
psychiatrist is very, very gentle about that, which I
Okay.
appreciate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how often are you seeing your psychiatrist?
Every 2 weeks.
Okay.
We try and do it more if we could, but it's a bit tricky. She's really good, so she's extremely popular,
Hmm. Yeah.
and she's sort of her books are closed and she's solidly booked out, and I've got appointments like literally over a year in advance. So yeah,
Okay.
it's a bit tricky. I can't monopolize her time totally.
Right.
Even though she
Yeah.
actually commented the other day she'd prefer to see me more often. It's just a bit tricky because of her situation.
Yeah. Okay. And I know from reading your blog that you have like a lot of respect and a lot of belief in her and a lot of
Yeah,
there's a really good connection between the two of you. Like
yeah, yeah.
what she has
We
to
get
say
along
is
very well.
valuable to you. Yeah, that's
It
great.
is. It is. She's one of the first people I think in my life that I've ever actually trusted.
Hmm.
I can genuinely believe what she says to me and not feel like I have to like overanalyze it and work out what they really mean and
Yeah.
all of that
Right.
stuff.
Right.
So I can take her at face value a lot more than anyone else. But that's taken a long time. I've been with her for years,
Hmm.
and I've really only been very open about even the DID stuff in probably the last year or so.
Okay.
Before that, I was worried, I guess, of what she'd think of me, or she'd just label me crazy. I didn't. Yeah, so I was frightened, but I think she's just been so accepting of it too. And also, I was really terrified of being hospitalized again.
Right.
So I held a lot back out of fear of being hospitalized. And now that we have a very good understanding of whether that's necessary or not, and she won't just, lock me up and throw away the key. I trust her completely not to do that. So
Great.
I can go in there, and if I've been feeling suicidal or something like that, I can be honest about it and not worry that she's going to go, oh no, I don't know what's going to happen, overreact and lock me up, so to speak.
Sure. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So what in Australia? So do you guys have like a national healthcare, or how?
Yeah, we do. So we've got,
Okay.
they call it Medicare, but it's different to your Medicare. I don't really understand how yours works. I just know ours is quite different. So we have private doctors and psychiatrists and psychologists, but we also have a public system. So everyone can use the public system, and it's free. But there's not a lot of mental health stuff available. So if you need to see someone regularly, you need to go private.
Okay.
Which means you'll be paying out of pocket. So my psychiatrist, it's $400 per session.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I know.
I don't know what Australian dollars to US dollars
yeah,
is,
Australian
but
dollars.
still
So yeah, that's probably $100 yours.
oh, still though. But
It'd be probably 250 maybe American. I don't know. I've got no idea what the exchange rate is, but yeah, it's a lot of money though, and she sees you for an hour though, so it's not like a 15-minute medication check like a lot of psychiatrists. That's a full sort of session. Though with that, with Medicare, once you've spent a certain amount of money out of pocket with private, like a psychiatrist is considered essential, I suppose, as far as Medicare goes. So if you need to be seeing a regular psychiatrist, they'll actually go, once you've spent a certain amount of money, you get a really large rebate. So I actually get rebated, I think it's about 80% of my out-of-pocket expenses. So I pay the money up front, but I get most of it back now. And that lasts for a calendar year and then resets like every January. But that doesn't work for psychologists. But because my psychiatrist does therapy, I've kind of lucked out. Yeah. So shouldn't talk about that too loudly. They might close the loophole.
Yeah. So, that's great. Because I know so many people I talk to who want to try therapy or have tried therapy and have just had enough of it because, my first therapist was terrible, or my therapist just wanted to lock me up, like you said, something like that. So that's really fortunate that you found someone who's that wonderful for your situation. That's great.
I've had other therapists as well who were terrible. So I have been through people before, and I just never felt safe with them. Whereas this particular one, she's a very, very safe person to be around.
That's great.
It still takes me a while though. Each session, it's a bit funny. I can sometimes just walk in and not be able to say anything for 5-10 minutes, and we'll just make stupid small talk until eventually I can open up again. But it's like I have to reestablish that safety every single session, which seems really intellectually that's ridiculous to me because I know she's safe, but emotionally a part of me needs that. So,
sure. Yeah. And the going every other week is kind of extends that, right? There is a physical gap in the relationship as much as a temporal.
I think weekly would probably be ideal, but limited.
So it's good for you though. I mean, you think you're making progress.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Even the communication and just having the understanding, because I'm able to talk to her about, my other parts, etc. Having that understanding of why things are how they are has just totally changed my life. I'm actually not suicidal very much anymore.
That's great.
Whereas, it was such a huge part of my life. It was like an overwhelming everything of my life since, I think that started when I was a little kid, like 8 or so. So to have that forever and that just always be there, and then suddenly it's not. And the eating disorder as well, even though we weren't targeting therapy towards that, just having that relationship where I can have someone I truly can trust and be completely open with and not fear the judgment, etc., has had this massive flow-on effect on all of my parts, I suppose. And so all of those things have gotten a lot better,
That's
even
great.
when they weren't targeted specifically. So,
That's awesome.
I think therapeutic relationship has more to do with healing than any of the workbooks or anything like that you do.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a little jealous of your relationship there.
Yeah, well, I hope you can find someone that you really gel with as well. How's it going now for you?
I am not seeing a therapist at the moment.
Oh.
Because the therapist I had was fine, Kara, and she I sometimes I forget what I talk about on the show and what I don't talk about. And then when I talk with a friend, I'm like, well, did they hear me talk about this on the show or what? So like she flat out said, like, I don't know that I can help you that much with like the avoidant personality disorder that's going on. And then I had like 2 consecutive appointments where I was like, for one I just couldn't make, and the second one I was out of town. And then from there I just said, well, I just canceled all the rest of them. And like I've got it, it's on my to-do list, like right up top, top 3 to-do list is to find another therapist. But like, I think the benefit I get from therapy is just the same thing with the show, just kind of giving voice to what's going on in my head. Yeah. And how just doing that sometimes makes it clearer or not quite as pressing or something
absolutely.
Like that.
That's why I write. That's the blog is that for me. It's that journaling and maybe with, I don't know, if you can find I know you don't talk about specific traumas from your childhood or anything like that really, but if you found a therapist who was very trauma informed and worked on that kind of thing, avoidant personality disorder, it's often because of an attachment issues as like childhood attachment, etc., which trauma therapists are usually really, really well versed in. So if they approach it with that lens, they might be more.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
To think about.
Yeah. Yeah, I struggle in therapy because I try to be as humble a person as I can be, right?
Yeah.
But like in certain situations, like I like thrive on feeling like I know more than the other person, or I know as much as the other person. So when I'm in therapy and like my therapist will ask a certain question, like I know, okay, you're not asking me that question, you're asking me this other question, but spoken in this way that makes it sound like you're not pressing me, right? And it's like my mind is always going in that situation.
You're too focused on trying to work out the other person than actually. Yeah. I understand that. I think I've had that with therapists in the past, and that's the difference now is I don't feel like I've got anything to prove. Because even though she's this, high-ranking psychiatrist who's got a 5-star review on Google and all of that kind of stuff, and she's clearly very, very experienced, and I don't feel less than her. Whereas I think in the past I've always felt less than doctors and psychiatrists and things like that, and that has made me feel like I'm trying to prove a point, perhaps, or trying to prove that I'm not as dumb as they think I am, which is, they've never gone and said, oh, you're stupid or anything like that. Right. But in my head, I think I'm stupid, therefore you must think I'm stupid. So I've got to prove that I'm not stupid. I don't know how that works, but that's kind of where it is. And whereas with this one, I don't have that. I don't feel like I need to prove anything. I really don't feel like she's judging me, even though technically that's her job in a way. But that's not the feeling I have from it. And because of that, being able to relax and just go with it, that's where I've had the difference. Yeah. So just I guess it's finding that fit, the right fit.
Yeah.
But, okay. She's really trauma informed as well, which was just an added bonus because I didn't. She was chosen for me. I didn't choose her. Someone a family member actually found her while I was in hospital after the overdose, and he tracked her down and got me on the waiting list. I don't know. He knew someone who knew someone, and they'd recommended her. So it was kind of dumb luck that I ended up with someone who was just absolutely perfectly trained for what I go through.
Yeah, well, sometimes that's what it takes is a little luck.
Yeah.
Right? So, anything else that you wanna cover? Do you wanna pimp your blog, or you'd rather kind of keep them separate, or?
No, I should pimp the blog. I should blog more often.
You're on kind of a roll lately.
Yeah, I'm doing a bit more lately. It's a
Yeah.
bit all over the shop at the moment. I find that too. I'll think a lot of things, or I'll journal a lot of things privately that don't actually go up on the blog, but because
Hmm.
I've journaled them privately and written them, I think they have. So stuff on the blog might look very disjointed, whereas
Oh,
there is actually a narrative. It's just not. Yeah, I lose train of thought a lot,
yeah.
the tangents, etc. But it's thecolorofmadness.com, and color is with a U because
Hmm.
that's the proper way to spell
The
it.
proper way,
The
yes.
proper way. So yeah, and yeah, that's my blog's on there. That's got a website. There is some information stuff on there too, but I think it's a bit hard to find. I sort of set it up and then didn't look at it again, and like the
Hmm.
main website part. So I haven't really worked on it in a long time. It's a goal, but I've been busy.
Yeah, yeah, and I can't recommend the blog enough. It's really like I said, thoughtful and deep and honest, right? And
Too honest.
nah, I don't know about that.
Too honest.
Well, that's
Thank
great.
you. I appreciate that. I can take a compliment now. Like I can take that and say thank you. And 5 years ago, I would have just gotten upset with you for complimenting me and
Oh,
told you all the ways it was bad and all of that kind of stuff. Sorry, that's just reminding me of things that you say about yourself. And I was in that place, and I'm improving. So I am making strides.
yeah, you are. I'm
Moving
really happy
forward.
for you. That makes me smile.
And
So,
thank you so much for all that you do. You have literally saved my life before. Like just your blog. I remember one time I was really, really. I think I probably wrote you about it. I was really,
hmm.
really in a bad place, and I was heading home, and then I got like a notification that your podcast had come up, and I turned it on, and I can't remember what it was about or anything, but
Sure.
at the time it just spoke to me in what I was feeling, and I was literally planning on driving into a tree on the way home, and I did not do that because of you. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, I'm glad you're on down under, as they say, and over there. So when Nora and I come to Australia, we're gonna come track you down.
Definitely, that'd be great.
Or next time you're in the southeastern United States, swing on by.
Love to go to America one day. It's on my bucket list.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to start getting out and seeing some of the Carolinas, so when people come to visit, I can say, "Oh yeah, we should go do this."
It's funny, isn't it? You can live somewhere and just never do any of the scenic stuff until a tourist comes from another
Yep.
country. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden you, yeah, feel like obligated to show them kangaroos and, all the important things.
So this has been fantastic. I am just so excited that we got to talk, and
Yeah, me too. I hope
yeah.
some of what I said made sense. I feel like I've just been a bit all over the place. I'm sorry for so many interruptions in
No, no,
recording
that's
as
no.
well.
The
Thank
magic
you
of
for your
editing will take care of all that.
excellent. I appreciate that.
So hopefully this won't be the only time we get to talk. And
Yeah, yeah.
all right, well, I think Nora's going to be
Right.
home in just a few minutes, so I should
No
spend a little
worries.
time with
I'll
her
let you
before I
go.
go to bed early, like I always do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Kate. This is fantastic.
Thank you too, and
And
give my love to Nora as
I
well.
will. I will. And
Glad
have a
she's
good day.
looking after you.
Yeah, she is. She's fantastic. I'm really lucky.
That's
All right.
good.
Well, go enjoy your day.
Thank you.
All
I'll
right.
speak to you later.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay, everybody. So that was the show. Just wanted to get my little tagline in: be safe and be well. Thanks for listening, everybody.